the wonderful opportunity today to hear a phenomenal guest speaker. It's Ms. Trina Go-Logan from Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. She's here today to talk to you about what an osteopathic doctor is, what an osteopathic medicine is. She's also going to talk to you about what the admission process is like to get into med school. You guys, I know you're a few years away from that, but you could start preparing now for some of the groundwork that you need to do. She's going to talk to you about that. Just so you're aware, there are 30 osteopathic schools plus 4 branch schools in the United States, osteopathic colleges, or not colleges, medical schools. So for one of them to be here to speak to you is an amazing opportunity. You also have Nicole. She is a second-year medical student who is also here to answer questions. So to have an admissions personnel right here at Rome High School, as well as a medical student to talk to you, you guys have the next 45-50 minutes, a great open forum for discussion. So if you have questions, raise your hand, ask these ladies questions. Use today as a great informative piece for you. So I want to open the floor up to Ms. Trina. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you all for having me out here. We typically travel across the U.S. to visit with colleges and universities. And you all are the first high school that I've been to this year, so it's a great honor to be here. I've been working at Georgia campus PCOM for a little over 6 years, going on 7, and I've been working in admissions for over 10 years. And Rome High School used to be one of my schools that I came out to with another school that I worked for. So the information that I'm going to share with you today is something that you can use no matter what school you're applying to. I was asked by a national organization to speak on this topic of admissions and professionalism, or professionalism and admissions. So this will be something that I hope that you'll be able to use. Some of the information you may be like, I can't believe that she's saying this. But believe it or not, I have seen all of this information that you're going to see today. So it may sound silly, but he will do it. So the Georgia main campus was founded well over 100 years in Philadelphia. Thus the name Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. And they saw that there was a primary care shortage in the southeast region. And so they started looking for an area to open up a branch campus, and that's where Georgia PCOM was born. We're located in a suburb of Metro Atlanta called Swanee, so it's just a couple of hours from here. So if you didn't want to leave too far from home, you could actually come home on some weekends when you weren't studying. And there's actually a residency program right here in Rome. So you really could get all of your education right here in Georgia. So this information I'm going to share with you pertains to applying to professional schools. You all are familiar with the word HIPAA, right? Okay. Well, we have something similar called FERPA in the college level. And so some of the information I'm going to share with you pertains to something similar to HIPAA. First, you do not want to bring a significant other, a parent, or a child to an interview. You want to have a time that you go and visit that school prior to going to an interview for that school. You want to treat that school interview just like you would a job interview. So anybody in here been on a job interview? Okay, oh, good number of you. That's really good experience to have. So if you were to go and interview, even if it were at Wendy's, would you take your parent with you? No. Okay? You're going to use that same concept when applying to college. Plan ahead. Also, a lot of schools utilize an online status check. When my children were students in the Gwinnett County school system, I had the opportunity to go online and check their grades. you all have something similar to that here. Well, we at Georgia PCON have an online status check where you can check up on your application to see if items are there. Now, if you only check it once, you can't expect miracles to happen, okay? It is your application, your career. It's important for you to take ownership of it and be proactive. So you don't want to check on it the last week of interviews. You don't want to check it the week that school starts or the week after school starts. Because if you do, guess what? You're probably not going to go to school there. Now, if you are granted an interview and you're not able to make that interview, it's important to call that school and one, see if they'll let you reschedule. A lot of schools will allow you to have one reschedule opportunity. However, if not, please call to cancel, because there's a lot that goes behind the scenes to get prepared for your interview. Some schools will provide a breakfast or a lunch or snack, and that's money that goes into preparing for you to enjoy your day. Also, there's an interviewer. When it comes to colleges and universities, their time is very valuable, and there's not enough time in a day. Doesn't it seem like that even in high school? I know it did when I was in high school and even college. So we want to be appreciative of their time that they're spending to interview you. So if you're not able to attend, please call to reschedule or to cancel. Also, I know this sounds silly, but do not wear flip-flops to an interview. I don't care how hot it is, and I know Georgia can be pretty hot. However, you want to also keep in mind professional attire. And I'll show you some examples of that here shortly. Now, I mentioned HIPAA earlier. Well, FERPA is the college equivalent to HIPAA. So you don't want to call anyone don't have anyone besides you call to check up on your application. Once you turn 18, we are no longer able to talk to your parents unless you give us permission in writing. One day I had received a call from a lady, and she was telling me how strong her application was. She had a strong GPA, and her MCAT was in the 30s, and she's a Georgia resident, and she just deserves to come to that school, or to our school. So as she was telling me about her application, I was looking over the application, and I realized that the applicant was a he, not a she. And I said, "Ma'am, thank you for giving me a call. However, who am I speaking with? Because this is not the applicant." And she continued to say that the applicant was her son. He was very deserving of coming to our school. Now, I had not shared anything with her. However, when she was finished, I politely said, "Thank you for calling. However, I can only speak to your son about his application. If you'd like to have him give me a call, I'll be more than happy to discuss it with him." So about 20-30 minutes later, I get a call from the son, and he says, "Whatever you do, do not discuss my application with my mother." Now, I reassured him that I did not, so I don't know what he created to show her whatever GPA or MCAT score that she thought he had. But it's just to really reassure you that we will not share your information with anybody besides you. Okay? So please don't send somebody else to check up on it. You also want to find out from the schools, how early can you apply? Don't ask, what is your deadline? Because there's a lot of processing time that goes into applications. And if you wait till the deadline, a lot of times you're going to miss the opportunity to interview. Because most applications take anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks to process before it can even be evaluated. That's anywhere from 2 to 3 months, or even longer, depending on how quickly somebody submits a letter of recommendation for you. So it's a lot of processing time. So I highly recommend that you find out how early can you apply. Facebook. We just love that word. Facebook is not a private entity, no matter what security levels that you put on there. There are schools and businesses that can hire police to go and look on your Facebook account. Okay? There are some medical schools that use it as a screening process. I always say, if it's something that you wouldn't share with your grandmother, don't put it on there. And I don't care how hip your grandmother is. And Facebook, from the graduating class of 2012 and beyond, grew up on Facebook. Well, you all grew up around Facebook. And it started as something fun and social. And it's developed into a lot more. There's businesses that are using it to market. There's movies, trailers, etc. And so something that started out as something fun, it doesn't have any rules or guidelines. So then students have grown up not really knowing how to utilize it in a professional manner. So I always tell students, be careful about what you put out there on social media, whether it's Facebook, text messaging, YouTube, Instagram, any of that is discoverable. And it has led to students being dismissed from medical schools. It's gone into students receiving warnings, not getting an interview, and as well as not being accepted into professional school. We have a story that a medical student, he was a good old Southern boy. He was into hunting and had photos of firearms with him, and his deer that he had shot, with his arm wrapped around that deer. He was so proud of it, and that went from middle school on up to high school. He really forgot about those pictures that were on his Facebook page. Well, he was in hospital, and he had gotten into an argument with his supervisor, and he said that the supervisor treated him unfairly. And he said to the supervisor, "Don't threaten me or else." Kind of like an open threat, nothing really serious. However, the supervisor, knowing about the student's Facebook page and all those photographs that were really geared with hunting, told the hospital that the student created an unsafe work environment. So the student was dismissed from that hospital. So something that was not related at all was, or became related. So you want to be very mindful about what you have out there. And as I mentioned, it's not just Facebook. An uprising trend is Instagram, and now they have all those videos out there. Snapchat, I just saw on the news the other day there's a big controversy going on with Snapchat. So all of those social entities are included in that. So I talked about things of what not to do. So let's look at what you should do. One, your application is your life and your career, so you want to be proactive. You want to check up on your application at least once or twice a month to ensure that it is complete. Don't just assume. We have had students who had documentation showing that we received their letter of rec electronically. However, we all know how technology is 100% foolproof, right? Not really. So it's important that you follow up to ensure that those documents are received. Now, a lot of schools will let you know how they want to receive that communication from you, whether it's an online status check, an email, calling, or you just wait for them to contact you. So you want to apply early to all the schools that you're considering. As I mentioned, I can't stress it enough. because the application process can take some time. We personally do not want students to call us at our campus to check up on an application. We do want you to use the online status check. However, if you were to need to call and you need to leave a voicemail, please make sure you speak clear and you repeat your phone number at least twice. Allow at least 72 hours for a response. There's no need to call twice in a day. So I'm sorry, but your application's not a life and death situation. However, we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. A lot of schools run on a very small admissions department. We have 5 in our department, and only 1 stays on campus at all times. So it can take some time for somebody to get back to you. Now, what I recommend is that you visit every campus that you are considering to apply, because not every campus is a good fit for you. Okay? It's going to save you time and money, because if you don't go and visit a school until you go for an interview, you could have saved you money for the application, because some schools' applications range anywhere from $25 to over $100. Okay? You're saving you gas money to go to that location, or even airfare, because there are some schools that are could be out of state and you have to take a plane there. Could be a hotel room. That's more money that you have to put into. So those are things that you want to consider when you're applying to schools. Also recommend that you keep a notebook. As soon as you step off that campus and you're in your car, write down the pros and the cons that you liked of that campus. So if it comes down where you're having to make a selection between 2 or 3 schools, you have that information in front of you that you can reference back to. Because a lot of times, is the moment that you drive away, you're going to forget something about that school. So if you write it down and keep track of it in a notebook, it'll help you in the long run. It's also a great way for you to make notes about that particular school. How do they like for you to communicate with them? What are their requirements? I've had many times that students have called me and got me confused, or our school confused, with another school. And if you're telling them that this is your first choice, but yet you're talking about another school, it really doesn't come across that they are your first choice. The interview is your opportunity to explain why you want to go to that particular school. So you want to be able to say that in your interview, because that could be one of the questions. And if you don't know why you want to go to that school, that could become a negative response towards an acceptance. You also want to be able to explain negatives and turn them into positives. What is a class that may be challenging here, or a class that maybe you don't like? What's one of the hardest classes here? It's a good one. Okay, physics. So, you get a C in your physics class. And in your interview, they ask, why did you get a C? I'm going to give you 2 responses. The first one is, well, my teacher barely spoke English, and it was really hard to understand what they were saying. And the teacher just sat at the desk and drank coffee most of the day, and he had us go up and do all the problems on the whiteboard. Didn't really give us any direction. So it was the teacher's fault that I got a C, because it didn't really teach me. Okay, that's one response. The second response was, although I received a C in physics, what I learned from it was better study skills. I also learned how to organize my study time better. So then, my next class, I should be better prepared. Hear the difference between the 2? Okay? The second option would be the best response. also you want to have at least 5 questions prepared to ask. Because typically at the end of the interview, they might ask you, do you have any questions for me? My biggest pet peeve when I ask somebody that question and they say, oh no, I know everything about your school. I've read your website and your students answered all of my questions. That's absolutely wrong, because you are not a student at that school. You do not know everything that there could be about that school. So if you have 5 or more questions prepared, yes, you're probably going to have some of those answered along the way, but that will allow you to have at least 1 or 2 questions to ask at the end. And that shows more of an interest in that school. You also want to remain calm by practicing. So those of you who have been on an interview, you have a little bit of extra opportunity. So whether you do this amongst yourselves and practice with each other, or you go out and you actually interview at different places, it's going to help you in the long run. A lot of undergrads also provide interviewing skills through their student services. So when you get to undergrad, I always recommend that you check that out with them so that you can practice. Now, I mentioned attire. When you go to a job interview, what would you wear? Suggestions? What would you wear?
Nice clothes.
Okay, what does nice clothes mean to you? Okay.
Casual business wear.
Okay, and what is casual business?
Maybe like some nice slacks or like nice skirt for like girls, like long enough to their knees. Nice blazer, background shirt.
Okay. So did you catch on to how I asked that? What does business attire mean to you? What does casual business attire mean? So when you're going to interview, you need to ask them, what is the professional attire for your institution, your campus? Okay? Every school has a different perspective of what they expect their students to show up to interview. Our medical school is probably a little bit more non-traditional at the Georgia campus, but it's more traditional at the main campus. Our pharmacy school is more traditional. So it's important for you to be prepared ahead of time. So ask the school, what is your interview attire consist of? So I brought a photo to show you. On the top left is more of a professional, traditional attire for women. So you're looking at the blacks and the navy suits, whether it's a pantsuit or a skirt suit. Below that is more non-traditional. So you could wear one of those to our medical school interviews for the Georgia campus. You can wear more colorful attire. And then below that, the one on the left, the gentleman would be more non-traditional. He's not wearing a jacket. I would recommend that you wear either a bow tie or a tie. However, this would be acceptable. And then the one on the right is more traditional. Now these over here on the right-hand side, those are all not acceptable. Because this guy here, he's got a shirt untucked. Now he is wearing khakis, and if a school is not a non-traditional, you could probably get by with wearing khakis, but have your shirt tucked in with a belt. This gentleman, his jacket's just too short. It's too small on him. So you want to make sure that your clothes fit you as well. I typically have a 5-item rule that I typically tell students. I interviewed a few years ago and a young lady had bangle bracelets on. What happens to bangle bracelets? Right. So I don't recall anything that she said. All I remember is the sound that every time, and she was a hand talker. Okay? So check that out as well. Make sure you're not making noise. If you're making noise with your accessories, take them off. But typically 5 rules. So that includes glasses, hair accessories, necklaces, earrings, rings, bracelets, watches if you wear watches. So try to keep it limited to 5. And that's more aesthetically pleasing to the eye as well. So, I told you a little bit about what to do and what not to do. So I wanted to tell you more about Georgia Campus PCOM in particular. We started off as an osteopathic medical school. Then we added our biomedical sciences master's program, which started off as a way to strengthen your application if you didn't get into our DO program, which later has developed, and now we have dental schools, we have well-known allopathic schools, which is the MD schools, that are sending students to our biomedical sciences program because it is nationally recognized. And then we added a school of pharmacy. Our first graduating class was last year. And then the physician assistant program students go to Philadelphia for a year. And then we do have some rotations available in the Georgia area. So one of the questions I get is, what can you do with a biomedical science master's degree? So I already mentioned about strengthening your application. However, we have had students work at the CDC. We've had them go into law. We just had a student graduate last year. He went on to one of the law schools downtown Atlanta and went into malpractice law. You could go on to other professional schools. And then we've had several students go on and teach at the community college level as well. Now, when I say the word pharmacy, what is some of the things you think of? Okay, what else? Kroger, Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, exactly. So typically people think of retail pharmacy. However, there's a lot more that goes into pharmacy than just that. You can go into research, work for an insurance company, you can work at a nursing home, pharmaceutical sales, but you can also specialize. One thing that I found very interesting last year with our graduates, I think it's because they're surrounded by our medical students, and our medical students go on to residency programs. We had a good number of our pharmacy students also go into residency programs, and that's not very often that they do that. It's a very small percentage. I was talking to a pharmacist last week, and she said typically about 25 to 30% students go into residency from pharmacy. I'm pretty sure we had more than that. They had a good number going to residency programs. So you could specialize in cardiology, oncology, peds, emergency medicine. You can work in a hospital. So there's a lot more opportunity that you could do even in pharmacy. So what is osteopathic medicine? Does anybody want to give a try at it? Any idea? Okay. That's the typical response that I get. Actually, there are 2 types of doctors. You have an MD, or allopathic, and then you have a DO, or osteopathic. They both have equal rights to write prescriptions, to deliver babies, and even to perform surgery. So, do you hear anything different between them yet? No, okay? So, the difference is that a DO student has more credit hours than an MD. And they do have a specialty called OMM. Pharmacy has around 100. Diversity in our faculty is amazing as well. One of our anatomists has the patent on the color MRI. He also helped with creating the 3D ultrasound. Now, I mentioned Dr. E earlier. He's over our OMM lab. He also teaches internationally in Germany every year. And we've had applicants apply to our campus alone, no other campuses, just so that they can be educated by him. We have an open door policy. When you get into college, you will find that your professors will tell you they're available on Tuesdays from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's 2 hours, right? Okay. Typically, an advisor or professor could have over 100 students. Can you imagine 100 students trying to talk to a professor in 2 hours a week? It's very challenging. So we don't have that at Georgia Campus PCOM either. If the professor's available, you go and speak to them. And they're pretty available almost all the time. We have a full dissecting cadaver anatomy lab. There's about 4 to 5 students assigned per cadaver, and you work completely on the body, dissecting it. We have a clinical learning lab and simulators. One of our simulators made just like you and I. He'll respond to medications, his eyes dilate, he has breathing sound, vital signs, and he can die. Luckily, he has a reset button. Too bad we don't have that, right? We are a Title IV school. That means that we do get our students can receive student loans. We do also have work study. I have 2 students in my work study program. We also have scholarships, and because of our history, we're one of the leading schools into the military. We have several open house. We have one in the fall, one in the spring, and then some information sessions during the summer, and some Friday tours. Everything can be registered for on our website. We're pretty high tech. We have a Georgia Campus Facebook page, very active. So I highly recommend that you check that out. And then email is the best way to reach us. I do have my business cards up front, along with some additional brochures. So please check those out on your way out. There is also a form up there that you can fill out and give it to your teacher later, and that will get you on our mailing list so you can know when we do have those open house opportunities. Now, while this video is running, I would like to turn it over to Nicole so she can answer any questions that you may have. The anatomy lab, I was in a couple days ago, and I think they said there's about 8 professors for the whole class. The OMM lab has probably around that many professors as well. The lectures are typically 1 or 2 professors, but let's say this is the lecture hall. The professors rotate into you. So you stay in your lecture hall, and then the professors come to you.
It's a little different than what class would be in high school. You have different professors that teach different subjects because they specialize in that area. So you may only have 1 professor to reference to for that particular class, but several that teach you the whole time of it.
Is there a preferred undergraduate? You know, does it?
No. And the MCAT is changing in the spring, and they're adding biochem in addition to some other hard sciences, as well as some social sciences. So your psychologies and sociologies are being added to the MCAT. So I think we'll see even more diversity in majors from undergrad. But I've seen anywhere from art to high school teachers to engineers.
Is there a hospital that's affiliated with the school, or is it just a do your residency somewhere else?
We have several hospitals that we use. In the first 2 years, students are on campus, and the third and fourth year, they're out on rotations. In the third years, we have systems are kind of like a hub. Actually, this is one of the hubs right up here. So you could be in Rome for a year, but you're traveling in different areas, going into different hospitals and clinics getting exposure. But we have several different hubs throughout the state. Your fourth year, you're going more to residency programs and auditioning or interviewing and getting to see if that's an area that you would like to go to. I think that's an advantage for our students because there are some medical schools that are affiliated to only 1 or 2 hospitals, and that's really all you're getting exposure to.
So if you were doing your residency, you would live where the hospital was? You wouldn't stay on the Solana campus?
On rotations, correct.
Okay.
There could be that you have rotations near the school and, you may stay in the area, or you could be living here or in South Georgia. It just
A
depends.
lot of those places provide some type of
A
student
housing.
housing.
There was a question back there. I saw somebody's hand raised. No? Okay.
How many of y'all are interested in becoming a physician one day? I really strongly hope that you would, or urge you to consider osteopathic medicine as your career field. As a high school student and college student, I was very unaware that a DO even existed. Once I learned exactly what they did and what hands-on care meant to the patient, it became very attractive. When you go to areas in the U.S. and internationally that don't have the technology to diagnose and treat like we do here in America or in the cities, having that hands-on ability becomes very